Well, hello, everyone. My name is Dan Oerther, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Executive Director of the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. And we are so glad that you were able to join our webinar event today. As we begin, I'd like to say thank you to the patrons of the Academy. Patrons are utilities and firms whose financial support helps bring the programs of the Academy to our members and to the public for free and reduced costs. So if you run into individuals associated with these organizations, please say thanks to them. Their financial support is helping to underwrite the cost of bringing these programs to you. So they're investing in your future. Today, we're going to talk about everything you need to know to become a board-certified environmental engineer, board-certified environmental scientist, board-certified environmental engineering member. We're doing this webinar event on October 21st, 2025. And for those of you that are watching, you'll notice that my screen actually has a 70th birthday. This is actually the day 70 years ago in the state of Delaware where the Academy was originally founded. So we are literally talking about board certification 70 years from when the Academy was originally founded there in the state of Delaware where it was incorporated. So that is a fantastic opportunity to be able to do some celebration on a day that is so important to the Academy. Like I said, my name is Dan Oerther. I serve as the Executive Director of the Academy. And I have a bunch of letters after my name. Now, part of the reason why I string all that alphabet soup out there is to let you know I've been through certification and licensure in a whole bunch of different fields, a whole bunch of different ways, in a variety of different jurisdictions. And so I am not here to tell you that you are or aren't licensed or certified correctly. I am here to explain to you a little bit about the Academy, but also to invite you to engage with me to ask your questions. Because if I don't have a good answer for it, I promise you I will help work with you to drill down and find somebody who can help answer your questions so you can add the credentials and licensures and certifications you'd like after your name. As we begin, let's think about the bottom line up front, what I call bluff. You're on an airplane. Suddenly the flight attendant comes on and says, "We have an emergency. Is there a doctor on board?" Now, I could raise my hand and say, "I'm a doctor," but unfortunately, that's a doctorate of philosophy, a PhD in engineering. That's not the kind of doctor they're asking for when there's an emergency on an airplane. What they're looking for is a medical doctor. But of course, not all medical doctors are the same. Some medical doctors focus on things like mental health issues, and other doctors focus on things like surgery or specific subfields within medicine. That's what board certification is all about. You see, all doctors are doctors, except they're not really all the same. We have different subspecialties. So all engineers and scientists are the same, except they're not. We have different subspecialties. The purpose of board certification is to help show to the public that you hold a subspecialty, that you are a world's expert in a particular area. And you earn that by demonstrating to your peers that you have education and experience and that you pass some kind of examination. So whether you're a medical doctor or an engineer or a scientist, the path towards board certification is all very similar. It involves you having education, some practical experience, and then some kind of evaluation for your peers to enter board certification. And then you can hold up your hand and say, yes, I'm a specialist and know how to be able to solve this particular problem. The last pillar of that is that continuing professional development, the fact that you stay current in your techniques. There is an obligation to stay engaged as a professional and stay current on your techniques. And the Academy is all about working with you throughout the course of your career to help you become board certified and to stay board certified. Now, if we go way back to the origin stories of the Academy, even before 1955, when we were incorporated in Delaware, there were these two organizations that were very important to help establishing the Academy. One was the American Society of Civil Engineers. We can think about those as the people who know how to work with steel and concrete and build concrete tanks and take care of things at a large scale. And there's the United States Public Health Service. We think about those as the people who show up and make sure there's no bed bugs in your hotel and make sure that the kitchen where you're getting your food isn't making you sick. Make sure that your well at your home or your pit latrine or your septic system is designed properly. Somewhere between environmental health at the level of individuals and homes and civil engineering at the large scale is where the profession of sanitary engineering originated. It's the engineers that scale up a lot of that technology that keeps us well as individuals. And so the origin story of the Academy actually comes back to these two organizations working together. They still exist. The US Surgeon General is the one who is in charge of the Public Health Service, and the American Society of Civil Engineers still exists, and it is the oldest continuously operating engineering society in the United States. Now, from 1952 to 2004, across those years, the Academy evolved. In 1952, it was an organization just around some sanitary engineers coming together and having a conversation to create the concept of the Academy. And in 1955, 70 years ago today, the Academy was born. And it was born in two specific forms. One was the American Sanitary Engineering Inter-Society Board, a collection of organizations that served as the custodians. The custodians of what? A roster, a list of individuals who were then called diplomates, but would now be called board certified. Between 1955 and 1966, the Academy began to evolve. It evolved from a collection of organizations to create a leadership board and a roster of diplomates into actually a full service organization that accompanied people or worked with people across their whole career span. We represent this here by the twin colors that we use for the Academy, blue and gold, merging together. And so in 1966, that's where we start to have the merger of the Environmental Engineering Inter-Society Board into the American Academy of Environmental Engineers. We migrated from the term sanitary engineering to the term environmental engineering, and we migrated from a collection of leaders and a roster of individuals to actually an organization in 1973 that included a variety of different sponsoring organizations. And by 2013, our name had gone as far as to include scientists in addition to engineers. So today's Academy is a membership organization that aspires to board certification for everyone. So when we track across that time, we see that the Academy has always been interested in education and licensure and certification. Back in its origin, it was sanitarians and civil engineers. Over time, the Academy helped work with ABET, or the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology Incorporated, to actually identify what were the things that people getting a degree in environmental engineering needed to know. And so you can earn your bachelor's degree in civil engineering or chemical engineering or mechanical engineering, and many people back in the 60s would earn their bachelor's degree in one of those disciplines and then earn their master's degree in environmental engineering. They all took the same professional engineering exam, and the way they demonstrated specialty was through board certification. Well, fast forward to today, and you can still get your bachelor's degree in civil and chemical and mechanical engineering, but you can also get your degree directly in environmental engineering. We now have more than 100 programs that offer the degree in environmental engineering in the United States and more than 20 around the world. In fact, we've gone one step even further. You can now actually get your professional engineer license specifically in environmental engineering. So into that history, or into that kind of background, we now position today's Academy. You'll notice that there's a bunch of entities or a bunch of items here on this slide. We're going to go through and unpack those kind of one by one to help you understand how this organization is set up. And in particular, we'll focus on the parts that you need to be aware of to be successful in board certification. Today, I began our webinar by saying we're celebrating our 70th birthday. On October 21st, 1955, the Academy was founded in the state of Delaware by filing the Papers of Incorporation. And today, on October 21st, 2025, 70 years later, the state of Delaware and the office of the governor of the state of Delaware issued this proclamation celebrating the 70th anniversary of the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. One of the other items that we are incredibly proud of today is just a couple of days ago, on September 30th, 2025, we actually received our trademark for Board Certified Environmental Engineer. So this is now a protected title that belongs exclusively to the members of the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. We are the organization responsible for board certification. Now, these two items are property of or aspects of the Academy. The Academy's got a lot of parts to it. In particular, we have a board of trustees. Their job is to make final decisions on everything that affects all of us. They are the board of trustees of the American Academy. They have a set of bylaws and they have a policies and procedure manual. The board of trustees is responsible for all of our fiduciary or financial information. It is responsible for all of our governance, and it's responsible for maintaining the Academy's strategic plan. On a day-to-day basis, the Academy is managed by a small staff, myself and 3 others. We take care of day-to-day operations. We meet regularly with an executive committee, which is made up of officers of the Academy. And we work with a couple of committees on a very regular basis, including the Finance Committee, the Nominating Committee, who comes forward with future officers, the Planning Committee setting the strategic plan, and then the Major Partners Committee that works with most of our patrons as well as organizations that partner with and support the Academy. That's the day-to-day operation. But if you're looking for opportunities to engage with the Academy and to be a leader, we have more than 30 different committees available to you. That means you could be a committee chair, you could be a committee member, you could be a co-chair or deputy chair learning the role. If you're looking for an opportunity to develop and improve your leadership skills, whether you're interested in awards or auditing our books, you're interested in educating the next generation or authoring policy statements that advance the profession, we've got a home for you across more than our 30 committees. That's the operation of the Academy. Let's drill down a little bit further into these other boxes that are listed prominently here. The process of board certification, what we're all about today. You see, it's not an accident that I've drawn these boxes to represent a large portion of what the Academy is all about. The Academy operates with 2 organizations, or 2 kind of, you wouldn't characterize them as subsidiary organizations because they're not separately incorporated, but they are 2 quasi-independent organizations within the Academy. One of those is the American Academy of Environmental Engineers Certification Board, whose responsibility is to evaluate engineers. And one is the American Academy of Environmental Scientists Certification Board, whose job is to evaluate scientists. Now, an individual who wants to be evaluated first applies to an admissions committee, which looks at all applications to guarantee that a person holds a degree and has work experience. There is also a recertification committee that makes sure individuals that are board certified continue to do their continuing professional development. And then there are subject matter experts, our expertise and exam committee, who write our individual exams that are used to judge our peers. For those of you that have an exceptional amount of experience, over 20 years of practice or over 20 years of teaching, including 10 of those years at a senior executive level, there is a pathway for certification via eminence. So most of us, myself included, went through the path of taking an exam. But some people at later stages in their career, when they've achieved eminence, the Academy can evaluate them by a committee of eminent peers and offer them board certification directly. In both of these cases, whether you're going through admissions or you're going through eminence, ultimately the decision for whether you are granted your board certification or not resides with these certification boards. So an individual applies, they are evaluated by a committee of peers. Those evaluation materials are then judged by a certification board who makes an independent decision to grant you or deny you board certification. This is what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. Now, I told you that I've got a whole bunch of letters and initials after my name, and I'm not saying that to brag about those. I'm saying that to say, it's sometimes helpful to understand the process that someone else has gone through when you're thinking about your own process. So, for example, I earned a bachelor's degree in biology and a bachelor's degree in environmental engineering. I took the engineer in training, or the fundamentals of engineering exam, way back in 1995. And then I spent some years getting my master's and doctoral degree. I taught at the University of Cincinnati, and while I was a full-time academic professor teaching, I took the PE exam to become a licensed environmental engineer, a licensed PE in environmental engineering. In 2004, you were able to take a test specifically in environmental engineering in the state of Ohio. So that test has been around for a while. I then went on to take the written and oral exam to become a board certified environmental engineer in the wastewater and water supply. I've been teaching at the University of Missouri for the last 15 years. And in 2018, after I had 20 years of experience, I applied via the eminence pathway to become a board certified environmental science in biology, because I also have a bachelor's degree in biology. Now, I also work in the sanitarian space, the United States Public Health Service. And so I'm authorized to go and inspect kitchens and look for bed bugs and look at your well and your septic tank. And so I am a diplomate laureate of the American Academy of Sanitarians. And I've actually expanded my practice overseas. In particular, I tend to work in sub-Saharan Africa and in the Caribbean. And I find that the credentials that come from some of the United Kingdom also have good translations to some of these areas. So I'm a chartered engineer in the United Kingdom and a chartered environmentalist in the United Kingdom. And so when I'm trying to help you navigate the process, it's because I've navigated this process myself a variety of different times. Now, if we would go back to the 1950s, back to the 1960s, and we would look at how the American Academy operated, you might have characterized it more as a gatekeeper. There was a group of people who were board certified, and their job was to judge other people to be board certified. It was really a status symbol, an accomplishment symbol to become board certified. It's a big deal. And most of what the Academy did was help judge people to decide if they were qualified for this big deal. And so it was a bit of a gatekeeper. The Academy has migrated its operation over time. And now I believe you would more characterize it as a mentor. It's not that we have lowered the standards. It's not that we're not a gatekeeper. We're still judging our peers, but we're also offering a program to help people accomplish board certification. So I like to joke that at one point in time we were a gatekeeper and now we're a mentor. And I like this quote from Dwight Schrute from the show The Office: "A rising tide lifts all boats. False. Sunken boats are unaffected by tides." I say that tongue in cheek. We offer a lot of programming to be able to help people achieve board certification, but we need you to meet us part way. We need you to engage in those programs, and we need you to take seriously the process of board certification. So what does that look like? Well, if you're a student, you can be a member of the Academy for free. Bylaw 2.2.1.A. That sounds very engineering, doesn't it, to have it down to that level of specificity? But bylaw 2.2.1.A says, any student enrolled in pursuing a course of study leading to a degree in environmental engineering or environmental science, or any other engineering or scientific field acceptable to the Board of Trustees. So if you're an undergrad, yep, you can be a free student member. If you're a graduate student, yep, you can be a free student member. If you're overseas, if you're part-time, if you're studying environmental engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, environmental science, biology, chemistry, climate change, yes, 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 those are all acceptable. So if you're a current student, we want you to be a member of the Academy, and our charge for you is zero, because we want you to start your journey for becoming a board certified environmental engineer or scientist. Now, let's say you've recently graduated and now you're like, hey, I want to get involved in the Academy. The way you would do that is through the membership route. Now, regular members pay $150 a year, and those are any individuals who hold a degree in environmental engineering or science and is employed or teaching in environmental engineering or science. So maybe you work for a consulting firm or utility, you're self-employed, you're an adjunct professor at a local community college. Yes, 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 all of those things are eligible to become a regular paying member of the Academy. We've got this, wow, I didn't know it up here, because a lot of folks don't realize that you can be a member of the Academy without being board certified. You see, the history of the Academy was this kind of a gatekeeping mindset, right? So you would wait until you were qualified to even approach the Academy. We don't want that. We want you to be a part of the Academy from the time you're a student all the way through your career. So for $150, you get access to our quarterly magazine, our monthly newsletter, our regular webinars, usually 2 or 3 per month, opportunities to engage with other subject matter experts. Your name is published in our Who's Who directory. You have an opportunity to search for other experts through our Who's Who directory. So there are a whole bucket of benefits that come from being a member. Excuse me. Now let's look at board certification. That would be membership plus something. Let's assume you're an engineer. Well, if you're a licensed professional engineer with 8 years of experience, 4 of which are in responsible charge, you can apply for board certification. So what does that mean? Well, it means you need to first become a professional engineer, and you need to have worked for a total of 8 years. And at least 4 of those means, you know what? When somebody asks the question, who's responsible here? You would raise your hand and say, that's me, the buck stops here. Responsible charge, according to model law, is defined as direct and personal supervision of engineering work. You are the one actively engaged. You're not just glancing at somebody's work. You're the one responsible for making sure it always works. It never fails. And if there's liability, it rests with you. If you're a scientist, you also need 8 years of experience. 4 of those are in responsible charge. Now, a scientist's responsible charge may look different than an engineer's responsible charge. A scientist might be the director of a laboratory, might be in charge of a quality assurance plan, might be the person who verifies the results of the scientific work before they go out, right? In other words, what we're looking for is somebody not just who does the work, but is in charge of doing the work, is the one responsible for the quality of the work. Maybe you got your bachelor's in civil engineering, and you went on to get your master's in environmental, and you want to know if your master's degree counts for some of your time. It does. A graduate student can count 12 months of work experience towards getting the master's, can count towards work experience for board certification. A PhD, 24 months. So that means if you go straight through, you get your bachelor's, you get your master's, you get your PhD, that's 3 years of your 8 years of experience. What if you've already been working for a while? What if, you took the standard path, you got your degree, you've been working for a while, maybe you're a PE, but you haven't come back and done board certification. If you have at least 16 years of experience, right? That's a pretty good amount of time. You can request a waiver for the written exam. You still have to take the oral exam, meaning you have to sit down and talk with some peers for a 60-minute interview, but you don't have to worry about cramming or studying for a written test. I will tell you the written test is very reasonable, but of course, if you've been away from some of the details of it for a period of time, it might feel intimidating to go back and take a written test that's maybe more geared to a more recent graduate. That's why this path is set up this way. For folks that have more experience, you can rely on an oral exam. And if you have at least 20 years of experience, and don't read this as like, well, I would go 8, 16, 20, I'll just wait 4 years. No, that 20 years of experience includes 10 years at a senior management level. Not just 20 years total, but we're talking somebody who's in charge of a major office, who's running major projects, somebody who's at a senior level, then you can pursue the eminence pathway. A lot of details there. It all comes back to this part of the academy with board certification. And if you're like me, you're probably confused right now. You're thinking, Dan, just lay it out so that I can follow. So let's just do a common path, right? Now, first of all, I want to emphasize the Academy is inclusive. We're here to support you on your journey. So if you don't fit this path, that's fine. This is not the only path. This is just an example of maybe a typical path for some people, not everyone. So you're 18 years old, you go to college, you study for 4 years, you get done when you're 22, you get your degree in environmental engineering, and you go on, you start working. And you work for a couple of years and you take the fundamentals of engineering tests, you become an engineer in training, you take the professional engineering test and you become a PE, you work for 4 years and you get your PE license, and now you're 26 years old and things are good, and you get a promotion in your company, and now you're in charge of a small team and you work on some cool projects and you're a team leader. And so now you're 30 years old and you have 8 years of experience, 4 of those being the team leader. You are exactly set to become board certified. You apply, the admissions committee accepts you, you take the written and oral exam, you're a board certified environmental engineer. We process applications 4 times a year. So let's say you apply in December, we'll take a look at it in January, you'll take your exam in February, and by March and April, you should be done and have an idea whether you've become board certified or not. That's the fastest speed. So don't expect to hear an answer quicker than 5 months. It often takes longer because sometimes the admissions committee needs to review your application in more detail. They need to verify. Remember, this is peers looking at you. So this is not me. This is not the Academy staff. This is your peers looking at your application. So sometimes this process takes a little bit longer. But 5 months is kind of the optimum, fastest time this gets done. Well, what's the first step? We'll sign up, be a member. We want to encourage you to be a member. Remember, folks can be a member for $150 and take advantage of all the programming the Academy has, except they cannot hold themselves forth as board certified. How about the other end of the spectrum, the eminence pathway? Again, we want to emphasize the Academy is inclusive. There are a lot of different ways to demonstrate eminence, but what does that look like? Well, let's say you get your degree and you work for now 20 years, and 10 of those are in responsible charge. But when we say responsible charge, we mean a senior leadership position. Not just that you're in charge of a small team of 4 or 5 people, but you're in charge of the whole office of 50 or 60 people. So the eminence pathway means that you've got some serious leadership, you've delivered some major projects, you've won some awards, you've published some papers. It is a high bar. Those applications are reviewed twice per year, typically in January, meaning that if you turn it in December, it's looked at in January, and by June, you'll hear back. Or if you turn it in June, it's looked at in July, and by December, you'll hear back. So the eminence pathway, the fastest you'll hear back is 7 months. It might take longer. But the first thing you should do is sign up for membership. You'll see here a common pattern. Please join us as a member, and then let us help you achieve board certification. We get some common questions, right? Like we oftentimes have people say, hey, I got my education overseas. Can that count? Yes, there are ways to articulate your education. ABET and NCEES has methods for that. We can help get you connected. You got your degree in engineering, but maybe you're not doing engineering anymore. Maybe now you're doing more science. Can you apply as a scientist with a first degree in engineering? Yes. I'm an engineer, but I never got my license. Are there any options for me? Well, perhaps the eminence pathway after 20 years of experience. I'm a scientist, and there's no such thing as a license for me. Do I have to have a license to be eligible to be board certified? Well, no, scientists don't require a license because we recognize that there aren't licenses in all the different areas of science. People are always asking, well, then why are you so fixated on licensure? Well, the Academy's board certified environmental engineering program is accredited by the Council of Engineering and Scientific Specialty Boards. That means that we have a group that sits above us that looks at our credential and makes sure it's high quality. And one of their requirements is that we are working with licensed engineers. Can I join the academy and not pursue board certification? Just listen to your webinars? Absolutely. We are a membership organization that promotes board certification. That doesn't mean you have to go achieve it in the first year, in the first 5 years. It doesn't mean you ever have to achieve it. But of course, we do want to help you work towards board certification. So in summary, if you're a student and you're enrolled in a program pursuing a degree, sign up. It's free. If you've graduated and you're working or teaching in environmental engineering or science, sign up. It's $150 a year for a whole basket of amazing benefits. If you've been working for 8 years, 4 of those in responsible charge, sign up, be a member. And while you're a member, let us help you approach the process of board certification. Or if you have at least 20 years of experience, 10 of which are in a senior level position, let us work with you to help you pursue the eminence pathway.